Hello, I am Jeremy's grandma, Lillian Summers, and I'm very proud of him. He's precious to me.
And me, I'm Grandpa Summers, Jeremy's grandpa, and been quite a deal with that boy for many years. Not too many either, as far as he's concerned, but we've had some great times.
Grandma, how many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have 3 sisters and 5 brothers.
And how about you, Grandpa?
Well, in my family, I have nobody. I had one sister, but I'm only myself to count for it right now.
Okay. Do you remember the first automobile in your neighborhood?
I don't.
Who you speaking to? Yes,
one.
I do.
Okay.
Very much so.
Tell about it.
Tell you about it?
Yeah.
I was about 8 years old, and a little Ford, not a Ford, but a little Roadster, which at that time was manufactured, one-seater, and I had a couple people living in a mother boarded, a boy and a girl, and they took me in and put me on the man's lap to drive this little Roadster. And I was so small that I could not turn the brakes, I only could turn the wheel. And that was my first automobile experience in my life.
When did you get married?
April the 20th, 1946,
And where did you go on your honeymoon?
up at Russell's Point.
Russell's Point?
They probably have another name for it. Lake, what do they call it? Besides
Well, Indian Lake.
Indian Lake.
Indian Lake?
Mm-hmm.
What stories, traditions, legends have come down to you about your parents, grandparents, or your ancestors?
What were the first 3 words of the question? What?
What stories, traditions...
What storage?
Stories.
Stories.
Traditions or legends have came down from your ancestors or parents? You go first, Grandpa.
Oh. Well, in my ancestors, I learned after many years of being an adult the value of these people. And we have a letter in our possession telling back in the 1900s of how wonderful people would work together in civic duties for their people, and centered around the church. And I'm proud to know that my family was involved with civic affairs from day one. And they also had a group of musicians in the family, which created a very large band, quite a large number of personnel, and what we called a Summers Band, way before I was even born.
How about you, Grandma?
Well, I don't really know too much about my family, my mother and dad. My mother was from England and my father was born in Ireland. And they met in Canada and got married, and then eventually ended up here in Ohio, where I was born. But other than that, I don't know too much about it.
Okay. What type of houses did you live in when you were little, when you guys were younger? So you go first, Grandma?
I was born in the house that my father built. They lived in a small house on the back of the lot, and then they built we called the big house, and that's where I remember. And then when your grandpa and I were married, we took over the house and made a duplex, and Grandma lived upstairs and we lived downstairs.
What type of house did you live in, Grandpa?
I was born in a little country home, and about 2 miles west of a little community. And 4 years old, in 1916, my father died, shared diabetes, and we went to a town, lived in the town for a few years until finally our school bought our property, and we ended up in the city when I was 9 years old. We went to the city of Dayton, and I lived there since.
Okay. Were you in any sports in high school, Grandpa?
Oh, yes. I was luckily had a leader friend of mine who was very much a sports-minded boy, which later became a graduate of college and went into coaching. But myself, I was led by him as other boys in the community to play baseball and things that we didn't have, safety things that they have today. And he'd make me a catcher, and I didn't know even how to catch a ball that would be behind a bat. And I took up in basketball in high school, and I won my numerals in 1930 for my high school in football and basketball. And of course, as I failed to complete the school, my friends went on and all made good names for themselves in professions in their later life, which I went into the working world in a couple of years, and but ended up having experience in football and basketball in the early days.
Did you wear any helmets or safety equipment?
I'll give you a story about my first time in the football turnout. The first time I lined up for the first performance, I was supposed to roadblock a big dummy in front of the coach. And I have never experienced that, and I want to show how good I was, and I did a dash down for that dummy and roadblocked it with all the heart I could put in it, and boy, that dummy was heavy. And I've done it, and I lost a lot of wind, but I wouldn't let the coach know, and I held my breath, which I didn't have it anyhow, and fell back in line again. That was my first experience in football. I was a center from our team, and winning or gaining that 1930 numeral for the football team. I was a center.
Were you in any activities in high school, Grandma?
No. No, we had gym classes, and then we had swimming, which I really enjoyed. That big, huge swimming.
Okay. Did you travel a lot when you were a child?
No.
You just stayed
home.
You live in Dayton?
I had a twin sister, and we were the babies of 11 children, and Mother thought that we didn't need other children to play with, and we more or less, our life was church and school and staying home.
Did you travel when you were a child?
Yes, my travel came with my mother's first automobile when we were in the city in 1924, Ford sedan. And not sedan, but a touring car. And my sister and I would ride the back seat. We used to go to Columbus to visit relatives. I had an uncle and connected with the YMCA and the State College up there, and we'd go there to visit. We traveled to various landmarks in the state of Ohio, and that old Model T Ford, which I thought was to look back, I thought was pretty advanced, considering what that car was and what we have today. And that was the beginning. And of course, that Model T Ford was my foothold in as later years as I drove it myself. A few years later, my first experience was having my car to drive for myself.
How old were you when you started driving?
Let's say, I started driving on my own, or at that time. I guess the laws were lenient then. I must have been behind a wheel of an automobile way before I was 16. In fact, I worked in bakery shops and bread routes and bakery routes as a boy, and we had horse-drawn wagons, and we had vehicles with motors. And I ended up with a motor-driven truck and drove it when I was quite young yet, and caring for the route. I was one boy that worked the routes and knew the routes, and the only one knew them, and I'd always had to fall in for anybody off sick, and they'd come get me, and I'd handle all routes that was needed for somebody to fulfill the absence.
Okay. Hey, when did you start driving, Grandma?
When I was 13 years old. My father didn't drive, my mother did, and she always had to take him to work. And as all the children got big enough to get behind that wheel, they did, and then they took that duty. And my sister and I took my dad to work.
Was it against the law?
No, the driver's license didn't come in. And if you were 16, you had to take the test, and we took the test and passed it 100%.
Piece of life, and you could write a book. That's what the Farley down there says. Carl, you ought to write yourself a book.
That's right.
I've been through.
Was there many racial groups?
No.
We
had a few colored in my classes, but there was no problems at all.
No problems. How about you, Grandpa?
We had in our high school, which was designed for before 2 races, I believe, in regards to the swimming, I remember. But we didn't have no problem. I think we had a 2,400 membership, with 900 of them being black. At the time I went back in the 20s.
Okay. Grandma, did you have a piano or any other type of music instruments in your house?
My mother was a very accomplished piano player, and she taught music. She tried to teach all of us, and all of us had a knack of playing by ear and didn't get around to practicing very much. And I love the piano, and I can play by ear, but it don't amount to anything.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole family was musical.
How about you, Grandpa?
We had a piano in our home since the time way back I can remember. My sister, she had tried very hard to become a pianist, and her nature, like a lot of people in different ways, could not master the timing correctly, much as she tried hard to learn the piano. And to give you an example, she tried to become in the office work, she'd have certain type of equipment that she couldn't handle because her timing was off. But in piano, it was a detriment to her also for our home. But we did have the piano, and we had guests come in who could play well. And my sister tried. Well, she did put what do you call them? Different kinds of recitals they'd have in church, and she participated, but she had never had it mastered.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay, can I hear about your trumpet playing in high school, Grandpa?
I took trumpet lessons and went in the high school band. Luckily, I had good teeth and a good tone. That didn't mean a thing in the future of my experience of playing a trumpet. In fact, it ruined me. They put me in the solo trumpet right from the first day go. The solo trumpet, that leaned me toward playing by ear. And I just didn't do me no good at all. I could handle the high school band numbers real well because I knew it by heart. But that's it. But when you become a musician, to become the best, you shouldn't go that route. I learned after it's too late, of course. And I have other things I learned the hard way too, through trying to play a trumpet. I got a book on that one too, and
You got a book on everything.
What did you do in the summers, Grandma, when you weren't in school? When you were a child?
Nothing really, except stick around home. Had certain chores to do and play. That was about it.
Was there any swim pools near?
No.
Okay.
We didn't go if there was.
How about you, Grandpa?
summer vacations, you mean, from
Yeah.
school?
Did you have a job? Did you have a job?
Well, in summer vacation in school, I had occasions to where we'd get together, sandlots, for instance, baseball, and I learned how to pitch horseshoes from an old man over at the ballpark, which was not completely a built ballpark then. It was just a big field, a secret how to throw a horseshoe, and I learned how to play various sports as free time during the summer vacation. And also, I'd go swimming a lot. And we used to have, our boys used to have a favorite spot along the creeks of the area. We called our place Black Ridge in our day, where I learned how to swim. And I nearly got myself in trouble at Black Ridge. I thought, well, I see people floating a log, and I did the same thing, and then I got cold feet and turned loose the log, and I went under. And I thought I was a goner, but finally somebody come and got me. And they told me my eyes was as big as saucers when they pulled me out of that water. So I gradually learned then to swim at a pool in our part of town those days, and I mastered it after a long time trying. So that's it. We were quite young to get into the working world, and
were you born at home or a hospital?
I was born in a farm home 2 hours before the doctor got there. In 1912, in February the 12th. And don't think for a minute that was a cold day. To be 2 hours before the doctor got there. Here I'm out in the world already.
How about you, Grandma?
No, we were born home. Mother had all her children at home. Then they didn't go to the hospital.
Was there a nurse come or?
We had a black nanny, we called her, that came and took care of us. And she mixed us up. My twin and I, they had ribbons on us to know which one was born first. And she bathed us and forgot to put the ribbon on. So Mother took several days trying to see a difference, so they had to rename us.
Was it?
News to me. I learned something there.
So we don't know really which one was only 5 minutes.
Oh. Okay.